Welcome back. It's time to take a look at our blending modes used with tools. So up until now, it's all been with layers, which is super fun, but you can also do the same thing with tools in Photoshop. So let's go ahead and open up our sample image. Now, here are our sample images, chapter 1, and we're in section 5, blending modes with tools. So let's go ahead and hit open here. I'm going to hit F for full screen, and we're going to go ahead and just give it a little bit of a glow around this area. Now, there is only one downside to using blending mode with tools, and the downside is that if you use them on a blank layer, they don't do anything. You have to use them on a layer with opaque pixels. So let's go ahead and show you guys how that works, and then we'll get into actually using it. Okay, so if I create a new layer here, and I'm going to grab my brush tool, let's go ahead and sample this sunset color, or sunrise, either way. And I'm going to change my mode. So here we can see mode right up here, just like we see mode over here. This area is for my tools. So I have basically, as you can see, all of the same tools for my brush tool. So let's go ahead and choose something like screen. So I'm going to choose my brush tool, and it's going to be in a screen blending mode. And I'm going to paint over here in my image. Now, as you may be able to tell, it looks like it's just doing it normally, which it totally is, because this is a blank layer. Now if I paint again on this layer, then the next time I paint, it's going to apply a screen because there's already something on this layer. And if I paint again, it's going to do a screen again and again. If I go down to something like multiply, it's going to start to darken. Okay, there we go. Let's paint a couple, and it's going to darken. So you can use blending modes with your tools, but there has to be something on that layer to begin with. So if you do plan on using blending mode with your tools, I highly suggest creating a duplicate copy of your background layer, and then you can use the blending mode on that layer. So you're not destroying your original, you got a copy that you can always come back to. So let's show you guys how to make a copy. Let's just delete this layer here. Now our background layer, I'm going to click and drag this to the new layer icon, and here we have a background copy. So notice the blending mode for this layer is going to stay here on normal. What we're going to do is use our brush tool, and I'm going to change my blending mode to screen for the brush tool. Now remember here we had opacity and fill for our layers. Well, we have opacity and fill for our tools as well. So I'm going to take our flow down to about 10%, which allows us to give it a nice build-up effect. So we have a mode of screen, a flow of 10, and we're on a duplicate of our background layer, and this time I can paint on here. There we go, and we can see it's a screen blending mode that's actually applying. So let's just hit undo here. There we go. We'll see what this would look like on normal. So if I go back up to normal, okay, this is what it would look like. Okay, we'll just add like yellow onto my image, but it's not trying to lighten anything, so it would get darker than your sunrise. So if we change this from normal down to screen, which we know lightens things, right? Then you can paint on here, and you can get some interesting light effects. There we go, right on your image. So it is directly, you can see, it is directly on that layer, which is the only downside to using the blending modes with tools, is it has to be on a layer with pixels on it. Can't be on a blank layer, it's not going to do anything. But other than that, it's a really cool way to add blending modes with your tools. Now, as a general note, just because this is a little bit more destructive than changing your blending mode of your layer, I prefer most of the time to just change the blending mode of my layer rather than using blending modes with tools. I would just feel like I was leaving something out if I didn't tell you that you could use blending mode with tools. But again, most of the time, I'm just setting my tools to regular blending mode, and then I take care of that with my layers. I find it's just less destructive, and it gives me more options down the road. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this chapter. It's just a brief look into blending modes. Now, in our next chapter, it's going to be so much fun. We've got some really great practical examples of things you can do with just blending modes in Photoshop. And then in chapter 3, we're going to go through each individual blending mode and show you the practical uses of all of them. Thanks so much, guys. We'll see you in the next chapter. Bye, everyone.